What's a sensation that you're unsure if other people experience? I get deja vu a lot, and it's really vivid. I know other people get it, but I'm not sure if they do as often as I do, about once every few weeks normally, but it lasts for 10 minutes or so at a time. I sometimes lose all hearing in one of my ears and all I can hear is ringing, like when you hit a wind chime. Sometimes, when I'm super relaxed and sitting/laying down, I'll get a strange feeling that I'm floating, but also simultaneously sinking. It's actually pretty pleasant. Sometimes I get a really sharp pain in my chest area that lasts for a few seconds. Haven't had it for a few months, but I used to get it about once a month. I'm 18. Sometimes I'll get a random sharp stabbing pain right up my ass. It only lasts for a couple of seconds, but it feels like a stabbing pain right up the chute. No idea why it happens. I've never had any health problems back there, or put anything in it besides, poop. Sometimes, even though everything looks the same, it feels like the room is huge, and I'm tiny. Sometimes I sort of zone out, and feel like I don't exist. I step out of my body and I observe what I'm doing rather feeling like I'm actually doing it. When you are having a tip of the tongue retrieval failure, for just a moment you remember that word, but then you get all excited and forget it again and now it's totally unretrievable. That weird cringy shiver up my spine when I touch certain rough materials, usually fabrics, like scratching my polo shirt with my fingernails. Simply rubbing shirts together would do it. I mostly get the feeling when scratching my hairy chest through a polo with an undershirt, or using microfiber cloths. It is also the same feeling as when I see someone with gross injuries. If I touch the bottom of my belly button I can feel it in the tip of my peen. When I'm really hungry there's a crackling noise in my throat. Sometimes my throat will just randomly make noise kinda like a ticking. This isn't vocal, but rather something I can feel or hear. I think I saw a word for it once, so I'm sure other people do. I think it was called sonder. Basically, you'll be out somewhere public, enjoying your day, and be struck by the sudden and intense realization that every single person around you is living a life as vivid and complex as yours. It's something you don't really think about outside of yourself and in relation to your loved ones, and it messes me up for a while whenever I'm hit with it. If I'm running for a long time and then I stop, it feels like everything around me is slowly zooming in and out at the same time. Weird. I sometimes feel like I have an itch under my skin, like I need to peel off my skin to scratch the itch. It happens very infrequently, and if I ignore it, it goes away in a few seconds, but it's freaking weird. Edit. I appreciate people's concern that this is some kind of skin condition or the result of doing drugs, but it's something that just happens every once in a blue moon and really isn't too different from a regular itch. I really don't think it's something to worry about at all. I see thousands of spots, colors, etc., especially in the dark. Also, I can feel the scar tissue on my lung where they removed my upper left lobe as well as other internal organs. I read a study about this, but sometimes I'll just randomly think about doing the most awful thing I can think of, and it scares me. Edit. Thank you for upvoting. This is now my most popular post. Occasionally I will literally turn my head and it feels like I randomly get a hard karate chop on my neck, like someone grabbed and pulled a muscle inside my neck. I stay conscious, but my vision blacks out for a second or so before coming back. Sometimes everything around me just feels like it's moving slower than usual. Sometimes I can feel my heart pulsing in my stomach, shoulders, legs, just a wandering heartbeat. Whenever I used to work late in college, and currently at my job, I'll get really into the work and will be kind of staring at the screen while analyzing what I'm trying to do. Whatever I'm staring at almost goes out of focus for less than half a second. It's like a really tiny spasm my eyes get, and I can feel them vibrating subtly. Then it's back to normal. I'll admit my eyesight is pretty damn poor without my glasses, so it could be something related to that as well. Sometimes one of my lobes will start throbbing out of nowhere. Also, my scalp will fall asleep occasionally, which is a very interesting experience. Pee shivers. Sometimes when I pee, it causes me to get a quick shiver. I'm not cold. Just get a little shiver really quick. When I go from hot to cold environments I sometimes get super itchy. It feels like prickles all over. Also sometimes I flex my eyes and can make things go super blurry. I assume that's normal but nobody ever talks about it. If I think about a particular word for too long I feel like the word is incorrect or never actually existed. Sometimes I'd listen to a particularly moving piece of music, or read a really good quote, or enjoy a fantastic movie scene. It goes beyond that though. It's like my energy levels are almost on a supernatural level when it happens. It's more than just excitement or high motivation too. I'm talking a primal, amazing sensation. It doesn't last very long, but for a few seconds, it's like I'm one with the world, as corny as that sounds. And no, I'm not talking about masturbation. If I yawn real big while music is playing, the key of the music changes, almost like the song is suddenly out of tune, then snaps back when I finished yawning. I assume something to do with the sound passing through a smaller opening in my ear canal. I'm sure other people have noticed this, but everyone I've mentioned it to in person looks at me like I'm crazy. Whenever I bite into an orange flavored Starburst, I cough. I don't know why, but it triggers a cough immediately. I googled this and no one seems to experience this. Sometimes one of my eyes will randomly throb / vibrate / tremble for a few seconds. Not painful, but very bizarre. The thawing out sensation when going from a cold environment into a much warmer environment. Like coming into a heated house after being out in the frigid weather for a bit. I can't see for like 5-10 seconds after I stand up. It's like my brain says whoa WTF and tries to adjust the situation. Feels like there's a hair tickling your skin, but there's nothing there when checking it. Sometimes when I touch the skin above my lips, or I wipe my mouth it feels like someone stuck a needle into the skin, like a prick. Edit, I need to wax my upper lip apparently. I'm a lady. Occasionally my brain would feel cold. I feel like my right ear reacts to sound by trying to move in the direction it's coming from. It feels like a muscle or something is pulling it that way, and when I turn my head, it feels like it follows the sound. It's not enough that I can see it move, and it's just the one ear. I also can't control it. If the pulling gets annoying I have to make a sound in front of me to get its attention. Sometimes when I'm in bed and the house is totally quiet, I feel like I can hear a muffled infomercial or something softly playing in another room. I can't make out any words, but I hear inflections and it always sounds like a man and a woman. I've asked my so if he can hear it, but he always says no. I've had this occur every now and then since I was a kid, but back then I always assumed it was just my dad who fell asleep with the TV on. / Getting a stubborn, halting sneeze to emerge by glancing at a bright light. I sometimes get this weird kind of overstimulation, like everything I hear or see just becomes overwhelming, and I need to close my eyes and breath slowly. I'm sure there's more people that experience this. Anyone else get a tiny buzz and hard nipples from a good sneeze? My hair hurting after it's been in a ponytail. Sometimes I get this weird feeling like I'm not in the moment, almost like I'm watching myself from the third person. I get this thought like, whoa, I'm alive and seeing right now. I'll be like everything around me exists. This is all real. Usually after reading about accidents or trauma that involve mangling / fractures of limb, I feel funny moving my limbs around, like it's not a part of my body, and at the same time I could injure them easily anytime now. When I'm sick with the flu or something I see lots of numbers that keep increasing when I close my eyes in bed, and it gives me a headache. If I drink a moderate to substantial amount of water within anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours, about 1 hour after I finish drinking the water, I will pee every 10 minutes for the rest of the day. For 5 years my feet felt sometimes warm water was flowing over it. Often I looked down, because either a dog was peeing over my feet. For 1 year I would have small tinkling burning sensations on my arm and upper back, like electricity was burning through wood. For 1 month my entire diaphragm would have ticklish sensations, starting from the middle to the outside of my body. I don't have these sensations anymore. Apparently these were all symptoms of chronic myeloid leukemia. The month before discovering the 950, these symptoms became worse and worse. There's a specific rhythm, like a badly played triplet, that sends my entire body into a momentary panic. Does anybody else smell cold air? I get weird looks every time I try to explain it to my friends. I see shapes and colors when I close my eyes. It's not complete black. Sometimes, just when I'm about to fall asleep, it feels like I'm falling. Spooky crap. I sometimes feel when anxious, as though something is worming its way up my throat. I can make loud clicking noises with my jaw. I can feel it moving when I do it. I can do it whenever I want, but sometimes it happens randomly when eating, because of the position it is in. When I'm stressed, the space inside my head, kind of like the stage where my imagination plays out, gets smaller and more cramped, and it gets bigger than usual when I'm especially relaxed. I have no idea whether other people have such a physical experience of imagination. My brain makes exploding sounds when I hit my boredom limit. It happened this morning, after waiting at a walk-in clinic with my husband for way too long this morning, and then in a line to get lunch. I explained it to him, and he stared at me in disbelief. So I guess that hearing exploding sounds when you're really understimulated. Edit, grammar. If I scratch inside my belly button, I feel a strange, vaguely unpleasant sensation at the tip of my peen. I get this weird feeling in my brain where it feels like I'm rocking forward and backwards, and my head is nodding, even though I'm still, and I can't shake the feeling. I also have a hard time thinking when that happens. I'm roughly 30 female. Anyone else get this? Being in a cozy environment like a camper or RV makes me want to poop. I overheat, and I don't think it's the same for the average person. I can be in a relatively cold room, but still feel really hot. Sometimes I get so hot that my girlfriend says she can literally feel the heat radiating off me if I get too close. Especially if we're in bed together, or if I hover my hand or something over her skin. I'm really scared that I'm going to be the next human to spontaneously combust. Edit, this got a lot of replies, so here's some answers. I sweat more than the average person in my hands and feet due to having hyperhidrosis. My sweating in other areas I would say is normal. I have low blood pressure, and I'm pretty skinny, I'd say. I weigh 151 at 5'7". Also no antidepressants. Should probably get my thyroid checked though. Once in a really great while. Maybe like twice a year it happens. Normally when I look in the mirror, I'm just looking at my reflection and think nothing of it. Every so often I'll just get a super odd feeling that's a bit hard to describe. But it feels like I'm looking at another person and that person in the mirror is someone else. I still know 100% full well that it's me in the mirror. It just doesn't feel like it. I don't have any identity disorders, and this doesn't manifest itself in any other way other than that couple times a year in the mirror. Lasts a minute or so. Boob cramp. I can't stand the feeling of rubbing fabric, like with my fingertips. If I accidentally rub fabric with my fingertips or nails, it gives such a shot of anxiety and makes me want to die. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I can't stand seeing or hearing other people do it either. I've had breakdowns over it before. I sometimes get goosebumps on my left hip out of nowhere. It's haltingly for like 45 seconds and it's in that one isolated area. Sometimes in certain areas of my body, my skin feels extremely sensitive. It's not always, but it could be the top of my hand, the side of my foot, a portion of my arm, etc. If I were to rub it, it would almost hurt. Like tons of microscopic needles. It's definitely a fuzzy shooting pain. When I drink alcohol, no matter the content or how much, my lady parts feel super tingly and happy for pretty close to an hour or more. Sounds good in theory, but in public it's awkward because you're trying to have a conversation and your clitoris has swollen up and you're mildly horny because of it. When I feel socially anxious and have to walk past a group of people, tears appear in my eyes, like this tension puts pressure on my eyes or something. Feeling the high from the pot in my teeth. If I get startled, my whole body will hurt, like I'm being electrocuted. Whenever I'm looking at something from a distance, like in a theater, If I focus on a faraway object long enough, everything around the object begins to blur and turn into black and white static. Fun to do when bored during school assemblies. But it's hard to not move my eyes at all from that specific spot after a while. And I feel like if I stare long enough my entire vision will turn into a black void. Does anyone sometimes enjoy a beeping car outside their apartment? Maybe I'm just lonely. This weird dizzy feeling I get when I suck water out of a clean washcloth. Intrusive thoughts, I know other folks get them, but when I have mine bad, I can't help but wonder how others cope and function with them. I get this weird feeling sometimes in the bottom of my stomach that I've gotten pretty often ever since I was a kid. I've never been able to describe it, but it feels something like hunger or thirst. Close street to thirst. As I got older I realized it feels similar to being horny too. I guess if I had to describe it, I would say it's some kind of profound feeling of need. For what? I couldn't tell ya. Sometimes when I'm out of breath and leaning to my knees with my mouth open, I can hear a clear ticking sound coming from somewhere in my digesting system through my mouth. I had to ask my doctor about this, because until I was 17 I thought it was normal and everyone else did it, but it turns out most people don't hear a sound when they look at a really bright light. It's like a quivering deep in my ear. My doc said he had heard of it, but had never met anyone with it before. Just something with how overstimulating my optic nerves, and it can jump to my auditory nerves and make me hear the quiver. Feeling glasses that have been washed in a dishwasher is like nails on a chalkboard to me. When I do tricep dips I can feel it in my groin. Like that feeling you get when you're going over a hill quickly in an automobile. It's only dips though, no other tricep exercise. When I'm nervous and visiting a new place, like another country, a camping spot, spending the night at a new house, etc. Sometimes my bag will feel tingly for a minute or two. Not in a turned on way or anything. This one just makes me feel uncomfortable. Maybe closer to how it feels when a body part is asleep. It doesn't happen all the time though. I notice it happens more when I'm nervous or after swimming, which is a weird specification. Can anyone else like concentrate on their ears and kinda just hear blood flow in their ears? Like I have no clue to describe it, but if you just think about it and stimulate some part of your brain you hear whoosh, and it's really deep in your ears. I'll get an itch on my body somewhere, I itch it. Feels like it's in that spot but I scratch a couple of inches away. Now it itches the original spot. Kinda blows my mind that some people here are finding out about tinnitus, ASMR, and low blood pressure for the first time. The weirder answers are cool, but I thought everyone knew about those, especially getting dizzy when you get up. That's like taught in science class, isn't it? If I sit too long, I'm overwhelmed with anxiety. When I'm learning about something that I'm really interested in I get this feeling of pressure and happiness centered right above the middle of my eyes near the center of my forehead. It's like the pressure in my forehead is causing my brain to ooze out happiness or some crap. One time I was late to class. When I walked outside there was no people, no animals, no noises. Feeling very strange I walked to class, and when I got into class it was filled with the usual people, and sounds come back. But the thing is I was on time. The time was the same as when I had left my home. Guess I froze time for one brief moment in my life. Strange sensation indeed. Remembering random dreams you had years ago, right before you fall asleep at night. I know because I have paintings or dream descriptions of these places going years back. Feeling like I'm the dumbest person in the room. The only way I can describe it is like an eye muscle spasm. Like sometimes, very occasionally, I go to look somewhere, and for just a split second, my eyes kind of jump around, and then go fine. There's no sensation with this aside from visually, and it happens so occasionally. I've never done anything about it. Maybe it's not rare. Also, I used to see these, like static/white noise on an old TV. Crescent shaped things in the corner of my eye sometimes. I could never directly look at it, and it never caused any pain or anything. Just annoying for a while. I learned many years later that this is what's called an aura that people see when a migraine is about to happen. Apparently some people get the aura, but not the migraine. That is, me. Haven't seen one in many years. Its technical name is scintillating scotoma. If I accidentally get water up my nose, I get this horrid tingling, burning sensation in the back of my neck and about halfway down my spine. It's incredibly unpleasant, but it only lasts about 5-10 seconds. I've mentioned it to people and no one else I've talked to has ever experienced it. Sometimes I get this really bad chest pain that lasts for only a few seconds and it hurts to breathe or move when I get it. I looked it up a few years ago and it's called a precordial catch. Before I looked it up, I was sure I was dying of some mystery illness. Google tells me I have exploding brain syndrome. It's the auditory version of that sensation of falling you get on the verge of sleep and it jolts you awake. No joke. Sometimes when I'm on the verge of sleep, I hear explosions and it scares me nearly to death every time. Sometimes it sounds like a gunshot. It's loud. I legitimately thought I was imagining the experiences until Google confirmed that it happens. Thanks for the free doctoring, internet. I used to live in a pretty rough apartment complex and there was an awkward experience in which my downstairs neighbor was shot, and I just assumed it was my exploding brain again and went back to sleep. Sorta. Chills when I listen to music. Yearning. Feeling like you're searching for something, but having no idea what. Feeling as if you've lost something unimaginably valuable, and not even being able to remember what it was. It's a really deep feeling that pulls at your soul, but you have no idea what to do with it. When I'm completely alone, I like to pick up a fluffy toy and beat the ever-living crap out of it while yelling offensive nomenclature towards said personified toy. When I really need a piss, my teeth hurt. Oftentimes when I scratch my tailbone area, just above my butt, I instantly have the urge to pee. I've asked many people that I'm friends with, and so far no one has shared a similar sensation. Rub eyes for 2 minutes, enter the vortex. This gets real weird when you sort by controversial. I feel like this thread has made me feel a million times better about all the little sensations I've experienced. No one is alone on here. I get odd tingly and tender skin on the back of my hands sometimes. Like they hurt to touch. It's annoying but rather dull. Also sometimes my balls spin. I always feel wax in my ear. Like I can feel when it needs to be cleaned out, and if my allergies are bad it's really wet in my ear, like having a runny nose. I had an operation where they put my knee back together. I opted for the spinal rather than general anesthetic. Feeling your skeleton vibrate as IYS drilled through. The feeling of my skin after it gets wet. It feels like it's too tight on my body, and it's immensely uncomfortable. An entire bottle of lotion won't even begin to make it feel better. I just have to wait. Sometimes when I breathe through my nose I don't feel like I've breathed in enough oxygen, so I have to lengthen the breath by inhaling through my mouth as well. During middle school and most of high school, occasionally I would experience the world around me going faster. Like to me, everyone, including myself, would speak and move at 1.8x normal speed, faster than 1.5x speed, but slower than 2x speed, but I would think at my normal speed. This would last for about 5-15 minutes at a time. This would happen at school with other people as well as home alone. Like during an exam or during a lecture I'd feel like turn the page faster than I normally do, or somebody speaking would be a bit faster than they normally would. Everything except my own thoughts would speed up. I believe starting in the 7th grade I would mark down the date, duration and time of each one of these episodes. Every year I'd have about 10-15 total of these episodes until one day I'm thinking back on it and it just didn't happen anymore. I had asked my pet teacher, who was a former military medic, and he said I was having mini seizures and I wanted to ask my doctor with my notes, but I'd always forget. I dunno. It's been a few years since I had one of these experiences and I don't think I've told anyone but my pet teacher and maybe my dad. When I eat chocolate it sometimes literally takes my breath away and I'm unable to breathe for about 30 seconds. When I'm sitting quietly in a quiet room I hear classical music playing in my brain. I have no musical ability whatsoever. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.